In a city that never sleeps, Luna Garcia just wants a decent night's rest. Her studio apartment, a cozy haven of books and unfinished paintings, shares a paper-thin wall with a mystery. Every night, at precisely 2 a.m., the captivating, melancholic strains of a piano spill into her room, disrupting her sleep and stirring her soul. The anonymous musician is driving her crazy, and subtly, beautifully, into his world. This is a story about unintended connections, the universal language of music, and the beautiful chaos that erupts when two lives, hidden by circumstance, finally find their rhythm. What begins as a series of exasperated notes left on a hallway bulletin board soon blossoms into a silent, symphonic dialogue that speaks louder than words. But when Luna discovers the reclusive talent behind the melodies is a world-renowned composer seeking refuge from his own fame, their delicate, harmonious world threatens to shatter under the glare of the spotlight. Kindly like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to switch on notifications so that you won't miss any of our stories when it drops. The digital clock on Luna's nightstand flipped to 2:04 a.m. with a soft, judgmental click. Right on cue, the first note drifted through the peeling floral wallpaper of apartment 4B. It was a low, resonant C natural, followed by a cascading series of minor chords that felt like rain hitting a tin roof. Luna groaned, pulling her pillow over her head. Not tonight, Beethoven. Not tonight. For 3 weeks, the resident of 4C, the apartment Luna had never actually seen anyone enter or exit, had been playing a nightly soundtrack to her insomnia. It wasn't that the music was bad, it was devastatingly good. It was the kind of music that made you want to stare out a window at a rainy city and mourn a life you hadn't even lived yet. But Luna had a 7 a.m. shift at the daily grind. She didn't need a soul-stirring concerto, she needed 6 hours of uninterrupted unconsciousness. She sat up, her curls a wild halo of frustration. She grabbed a neon-pink sticky note and a Sharpie from her nightstand. Dear 4C, she wrote in jagged, angry block letters. Your piano skills are 10 out of 10. Your timing is 0/10. Some of us serve caffeine to the masses in 5 hours. Please play your feelings during daylight hours. Thanks, 4B, she threw on a cardigan, crept into the dim, carpeted hallway, and slapped the note onto the door of 4C. She lingered for a second, listening. The music stopped abruptly. Silence reclaimed the hallway. Luna retreated to her bed, finally drifting off to the blessed sound of nothing. The next afternoon, Luna came home with feet that ached and a shirt that smelled like oat milk and burnt espresso. She stopped at her door and frowned. Stuck to her own door was a pale blue sticky note. The handwriting was elegant, almost like sheet music, slanted and precise. Dear 4B. My apologies. The moonlight is a demanding muse. However, your Sharpie usage is 10 out of 10. Very authoritative. To compensate for your lost sleep, I am taking requests. What does a barista want to hear at 2 a.m.? Luna felt a strange prickle of heat in her cheeks. She looked at the closed door of 4C. It remained as silent as a tomb. Oh, you want a request? She muttered to herself. She pulled out another pink note. Fine. If I have to be awake, I want something that isn't a funeral march. Give me something that sounds like sunlight. And maybe try it at 1 a.m. so I can at least pretend to have a sleep schedule. That night, Luna didn't even try to sleep. She sat on her floor, her back against the shared wall, a sketchbook in her lap. At 1 a.m. sharp, a single note rang out. Then another. It wasn't a concerto this time. It was a bright, bouncy ragtime melody. It was syncopated and playful, skipping along the wall like a stone across a pond. It sounded like yellow paint, like a Sunday morning in the park, like someone laughing. Luna found herself smiling. Her pencil flew across her sketchbook, drawing a girl with wild hair dancing to invisible notes. When the song ended, she tapped 3 times on the wall. "Thank you." 3 soft thuds came back from the other side. "You're welcome." For the next week, the wall between 4B and 4C became a living thing. The sticky notes multiplied like a paper ivy, growing across the doorframes. They shared moods rather than names. Luna would leave a note saying, "It's a gray, rainy Tuesday and I burned the croissants," and 1 a.m. would bring a slow, comforting blues melody that felt like a warm blanket, but the mystery was starting to itch. Chloe, Luna's best friend, was practically vibrating with curiosity. "He's clearly a spy," Chloe declared, leaning against Luna's kitchen counter while Luna tried to sketch. "Or a witness in protection. Who plays piano like a god but never leaves their apartment for groceries. I'm telling you, Luna, he's a ghost. A very talented, probably handsome ghost. He's just private, Chloe," Luna said, though she had spent more time than she'd admit listening for the sound of his footsteps. The heatwave hit on Thursday, turning the apartment building into a brick oven. Luna's window was stuck, and the air in 4B was stifling. At 11:30 p.m., unable to breathe, she decided to risk the communal rooftop to catch a breeze. She stepped into the hallway, her hair pulled into a messy topknot. Wearing an oversized vintage t-shirt and pajama shorts, at that exact moment, the door to 4C clicked open. Luna froze. A man stepped out. He was wearing a dark hoodie despite the heat, the hood pulled low. He was carrying a trash bag, but even in the dim, flickering hallway light, Luna could see his profile. Strong jawline, a shadow of stubble, and eyes that looked perpetually exhausted. He looked up and saw her. He stopped dead. Luna realized she was holding a half-empty bag of Cheetos and a pink sticky note. "Oh. Hi." The man's eyes darted to the note in her hand. A small, almost invisible smile touched his lips. "Barista," his voice was like the low notes of his piano, deep, slightly raspy, and resonant. "Piano man?" Luna countered, her heart doing a frantic drum solo against her ribs. He didn't move closer. He seemed almost, vibrating with the urge to run back inside. "You're real," he muttered. "I wasn't sure. I thought I might have been hallucinating the pink notes." "I could say the same about the music," Luna said, finding her courage. She stepped forward. "I'm Luna," he hesitated. The hood cast a shadow over his face, but he didn't pull it further down. For a second, he looked like he wanted to tell her his name. But a flash of something, fear, caution, crossed his face. "I have to go," he said, his voice tightening. "The moonlight is calling." He turned and headed toward the service stairs with a quick, athletic stride. "Wait." Luna called out. "You didn't give me your name." He didn't turn around, but his voice echoed back up the stairwell. "Check your door at 1 o'clock, Luna." Luna didn't go to the roof. She went back inside, her skin tingling. She waited, sitting by the door, watching the seconds tick by on her phone. At 1 a.m., there was no music. Instead, there was a soft thud against her door. She opened it to find a small, folded piece of staff paper. On it, he hadn't written a name. He had written a single line of music, a melody she didn't recognize, but it was intricate and soaring. Underneath the notes, in that elegant, slanted handwriting, was a message: "I can't give you a name yet. But this is how I feel today. It's a work in progress." Just like me, Luna took the paper to her piano, a cheap, dusty keyboard she hadn't touched in years, and picked out the notes. As the melody filled her room, she realized why it sounded so familiar. It didn't sound like sunlight. It sounded like her. It was a musical portrait of the girl who left pink sticky notes. "Who are you?" she whispered to the empty room. The morning after their hallway encounter, the air in the city felt charged. Luna moved through her shift at the daily grind like a sleepwalker. Every time a customer with a deep voice ordered a black coffee, her head snapped up, hoping to see a dark hoodie and exhausted eyes. "You're foaming that milk into oblivion, Luna," Chloe said, leaning over the counter. She held up a trendy arts and culture magazine she'd picked up from the newsstand outside. "Forget the milk. Look at this. The Mozart of the modern age has gone MIA." Luna wiped her hands on her apron and glanced at the cover. Her heart didn't just skip a beat, it stopped entirely. The man on the cover wasn't wearing a hoodie. He was in a sharp, tailored black suit, sitting at a grand piano in a hall that looked like it was made of gold. His hair was styled, but the eyes, those perpetually exhausted, soul-searching green eyes, were unmistakable. "The disappearance of Ethan Vance," the headline screamed. After walking off stage at the Royal Albert Hall, the world's greatest living composer hasn't been seen in 3 months. "Is the music over? He's gorgeous, right?" Chloe sighed, oblivious to Luna's sudden paleness. "Imagine being that talented and just vanishing. People are saying he had a nervous breakdown. Others say he's in the Maldives." "He's not in the Maldives." Luna whispered. "What? Nothing." Luna grabbed a tray of muffins and retreated to the back room. Her piano man wasn't just a night owl with a hobby. He was Ethan Vance. A man whose albums she had listened to in college to get through finals. A man who sold out stadiums. And he was currently hiding in apartment 4C, taking out his own trash and responding to neon pink sticky notes. That night, Luna couldn't wait for 1 a.m. She needed air, and she needed to know why a man who had the world at his feet was hiding behind a paper-thin wall in a building that smelled like boiled cabbage. She headed to the rooftop. The city skyline was a jagged crown of lights, and the hum of traffic provided a low-frequency bass. He was there. He was leaning against the rusted iron railing, his hoodie pushed back for once. He was staring at the horizon, a cigarette unlit in his hand. He looked smaller out here, under the vastness of the sky, than he did in her imagination. "The acoustics aren't as good up here," Luna said, her voice trembling only slightly. Ethan didn't flinch. He didn't even turn around. "You found the magazine, didn't you?" "My roommate did. She thinks you're in the Maldives." He let out a short, dry laugh. "The Maldives is too loud. Too many people expecting me to be Ethan Vance. Here, I'm just 4C. I'm just a guy who plays too late." Luna walked up beside him, leaning her elbows on the railing. "Why did you leave, Ethan?" He winced at his name. "I sat down at the piano in London. 10,000 people were waiting. Silence is the loudest thing in the world when you have nothing left to say. I realized I'd been playing for my father, for my manager, for the critics, but I couldn't remember what the music sounded like to me." He finally looked at her. "Then I moved here. And the girls started yelling at me through a pink piece of paper. You didn't want a masterpiece, Luna. You just wanted to sleep. And then I wanted sunlight," she reminded him softly. "You gave me a reason to play something that wasn't on a set list," he said, stepping closer. In the moonlight, the intensity of his gaze was overwhelming. "For the first time in years, I wasn't composing. I was just talking to you." Luna reached out, her hand hesitant, before she rested it on his arm. The world misses you, Ethan. But 4B likes the guy who plays ragtime at 1 a.m. much better. Ethan looked down at her hand, then back to her eyes. The distance between them was shrinking, the rhythm of the city fading away until it was just the two of them, a composer who had lost his way and a girl who had found him in the dark. "Stay," he whispered, his hand reaching up to cup her jaw. "Just for a moment. No music. No notes. Just this." The following week was a blur of high-stakes hiding and whispered promises. Ethan and Luna had created a fragile bubble between their two apartments, but bubbles are made to burst. "You look like a bank robber," Luna whispered, trying to suppress a giggle. Ethan adjusted the oversized vintage glasses and the faded baseball cap he'd borrowed from a neighbor's free box. "It's called Brooklyn camouflage. Luna. Trust me, if I don't look like I'm worth $1 million, the paparazzi don't see me." They spent the afternoon in a part of the city where grand pianos and concert halls felt like a different planet. They ate greasy tacos from a truck, sat on a peeling park bench, and watched a street performer play a steel drum. For the first time in months, Ethan wasn't a prodigy. He was just a guy holding a girl's hand, arguing about whether pineapple belonged on tacos. "Listen to that," Ethan said, nodding toward the street performer. "He's hitting the offbeat. It's imperfect. It's beautiful." He looked at Luna, his eyes bright with a spark she hadn't seen before. "I think I'm starting to hear it again. The music that isn't for an audience. It sounds like this afternoon." "Careful," Luna teased. "You might end up writing a song about tacos." "I'd write a symphony for you if it meant staying like this," he replied, his voice dropping an octave. He leaned in, kissing her in the middle of a crowded sidewalk, hidden in plain sight. The magic evaporated the moment they stepped back into the lobby of their apartment building. The cramped space was crowded. 3 men in sharp, expensive suits stood near the mailboxes, looking wildly out of place against the linoleum floors. In the center stood a woman with a sleek blonde bob and a phone pressed to her ear like a weapon, Marcus Thorne. "Ethan's manager." "Ethan," Marcus said, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. He didn't even look at the girl beside him. "We've been tracking your credit card pings for 48 hours. Do you have any idea the legal nightmare you've created by skipping the Tokyo residency?" Ethan stiffened, his hand dropping from Luna's. The camouflage was gone. He was suddenly the world-famous composer again, trapped in the headlights. "I'm not going to Tokyo, Marcus," Ethan said, his voice steady but cold. "You're living in a slum," Marcus spat, finally glancing at Luna with a look of pure disdain. "And I see you found a local distraction to help you waste your genius. Is this who you're throwing away a career for? A barista who leaves sticky notes on doors?" "Don't talk to her." Ethan stepped in front of Luna, his shoulders squaring. "The labels are ready to sue." "Ethan," Marcus continued, lowering his voice to a hiss. "You have 24 hours to pack your things and get in the car, or we leak the location of this sanctuary to every tabloid in the city. You think she'll enjoy having 50 cameras pointed at her window every morning? You think her life will be quiet then?" Ethan flinched. The threat was clear. To protect Luna's peace, he had to give up his own. He turned to look at Luna. The look in his eyes was heartbreaking, a man caught between the music he loved and the woman who had helped him hear it again. That night, there were no sticky notes. There was no 1 a.m. ragtime. Luna sat on her floor, her back against the wall, listening to the sound of heavy suitcases being dragged across the floor of 4C. She heard the front door open, the murmur of men's voices, and then, silence. She felt like a limb had been severed. She walked to her door and opened it, hoping, praying, for one last neon pink slip of paper. There was nothing. Heartbroken, she retreated to her bed. But as the clock struck 2 a.m., a sound began to drift through the wall. It wasn't a piano. It was coming from a small, portable Bluetooth speaker he must have left behind. It was a recording. The melody was the one he had written for her, the Portrait of Luna. But it was finished now. It was layered with strings, a haunting cello, and a piano part so intricate it sounded like a heartbeat. She ran to her door and found a single, small envelope tucked under the frame. Inside was a VIP ticket to the City Symphony Hall for the following night and a final note. They can take me to the stage, but they can't take the music you gave me. Watch the encore. The Symphony Hall was a sea of tuxedos and evening gowns. Luna felt out of place in her thrifted velvet dress. Sitting in the front row, Ethan performed flawlessly. He played the classics, the Mozart of the modern age, returning to his throne. But when the final bow was taken and the lights dimmed for the encore, he didn't play a masterpiece. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small, neon-pink sticky note and stuck it to the side of the $1 million Steinway. This, Ethan said into the microphone, his eyes finding Luna in the dark, is a request from 4B. He played the Sunlight, Ragtime. He played it with joy, with errors, with soul. He played it until the high society audience was tapping their feet and Luna was crying in her seat. He didn't go back to the Maldives. He didn't go back to the silence. He went home to 4C, where a girl was waiting with a fresh pack of Sharpies and a request for a song that sounded like Forever. Thanks for listening to the end. Kindly like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the story. Let us know where you are listening from in the comments section.